Dixie here. Today I want to talk to you about how I stay motivated during a thru hike. Now, if you're wondering why on earth, for a 6-month backpacking trip, you'd have to try to stay motivated, it's not a vacation, even though some people think that it is. And really, if you think about it, any activity that you're staying on for 6 months can get pretty monotonous. But now that I've done the PCT and the AT, I've really started honing in on things that help keep me motivated. Although I'm going to be covering points that really helped me while I was on trail, if there's something that I've learned about nature, it's that lessons that we learn out in the wilderness can certainly be brought back to normal life. So this might give y'all some ideas of how to stay motivated on different tasks, whether you're planning a thru hike or not. So let's get started. Number 1 is make a list. Before I even take my first step on trail, I like to make a list of why am I thru hiking this trail. I write it down either in my journal or mark it in my phone and just give myself something to refer to later on a terrible day, because not every day is going to be a good day on trail. Some examples might be because it's my childhood dream, or to see how strong I am, or to prove to myself that I can, to see beautiful parts of this country that you can't see except by foot, to escape society and think, to clear my mind, to meet awesome, passionate, like-minded people, and maybe to take less for granted and appreciate, the comforts of modern day life. So I've just found that it really helps to be able to remember, okay, this is why I'm out here and this is why I'm torturing myself. Number 2 is work hard, rest hard. So normally it's work hard, play hard, right? But when I am that physical all the time for 6 months, when I get a break, whether it's a 20-minute break or whether I'm taking a 0 day, I like to rest during my rest times. I like to prop my feet up. And sometimes I might do a little bit of physical activity, but most of the time I'm just really enjoying some R&R. I know a lot of people get in this mindset of work, work, work. And when I first got out on the Appalachian Trail, I had to remind myself that it's not my job. I don't have to do X amount of miles every day, nonstop. And it took me a while before I even took a 0 day because I was just so caught up on, oh my gosh, I might not make it to Katahdin. But rest is very, very important. When you're focused in on any certain goal, you work, work, work at it, and then sometimes you just got to take a break from it. So it's similar to like writing a book or a paper or an essay. You've got to write it and then step away from it for a while and come back and proofread it. So that rest and that period of, taking a break is very important for me. Third, I've found that I've got to mix it up. So once I start getting bored and I'm staring at my feet all the time and just like, I'm not feeling like hiking today, I've got to mix it up. I've got to challenge myself more or change something up. So that might even be, boosting my morale by changing up my food, bringing like more fresh food out on the trail, or some meat that I can cook the first night out, or even doing challenges like the McDonald's challenge where you resupply. Hopefully it's only a couple a day resupply, but from one place to another with just McDonald's. I don't really recommend that necessarily. It's not necessarily healthy, but I'm just telling you, for me, it was worth the challenge just to mix things up. Also, I did the 24-hour challenge on the PCT and did 62 miles, which again might not be the best thing physically long term, but I was fine. And I'm just saying, whether it's that extreme or not, just changing things up and throwing something exciting in there, a night hike or whatever, just to kind of keep your spirits high. Number 4 is practice being in the moment. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but honestly, too often I feel like in everyday life and on the trail, you just get in this zone where you're like a zombie. People tend to be like zombies. They're just going through the motions and not really taking in everything around them. So if I found myself in that zombie mood, I would try to snap out of it, look around at, the dew on the leaves or some critter crawling by, or, look at a knot on a tree that looked different than another tree I had seen, just something to put myself in the place that I was right then and appreciate some kind of beauty around me. I will say that vlogging and taking pictures really helped me be in the moment. A lot of people ask, does that take away from your experience? But I really think it helps put me in it, because I make a point to notice the little things happening all around me. Number 5 is make a to-do list for home. If I noticed myself getting homesick or my mind wandering and or feeling like I wasn't being productive and like I'm wasting my life away, that's ridiculous, because spending time in the woods and in nature is not a waste of time. It's very therapeutic. But sometimes I almost felt, stuck in it, like it was a chore. So I would try to get excited about, what am I going to do when I get home? And actually, I feel like that really helps with post-trail depression, knowing where you're going to channel that energy once you do get home, and making a list of things that you want to do. I thought about all sorts of things that I wanted to do, and if I hadn't made a list, I probably would have forgotten a lot of them when I got home. So one of them was, make an ebook for how to prepare to hike the AT, and I did that. Another could be like learning a new language, or starting to learn how to make wine. Just anything that you're gonna channel your energy into once you get home, so that you have a nice transition and it gives you something to be excited about and think about while you're hiking. Number 6 is focus on what can be changed and don't worry about what can't be changed. I noticed myself so many times on the trail getting mad at the wind, trying to set up my tent and the wind is blowing, or it's been windy for 3 days and I'm just absolutely sick of not being able to, hear myself think. When moments like that happened, I had to remind myself, I don't control the wind. I don't control how fast a river is flowing. I don't control how much snow is on the trail, but what I do control is my mindset and how I'm going to react to these situations. So it's more about focusing on, okay, am I going to cross this river? And if so, I need to do this carefully. Or, am I going to set up here because it's going to be a windy night, or do I need to stop crying about it and get up and start hiking a little bit more and find a better spot to camp? So I think that people in general tend to get so upset about things that they can't change, rather than letting those things go and focusing on what can be changed and what they do have control over. And that's really where, I feel like my energy is best served. Number 7 is pick a favorite part of every day. While I was hiking through the Sierra Nevada, the fellas that I was hiking with and I would sit by the fire every night and try to come up with our favorite part of the day. A lot of our days in the Sierra Nevada were not fun. They were stressful and frustrating and draining. And so, making ourselves sit down and come up with something out of that day that wasn't all that bad, I think really helped keep us in a positive mindset and helped us realize that even though you have a bad day, not every single part of that day is bad. And that's something that, when I'm in normal life, and I do have a bad day, I try to remember, not every part of today was bad. Even though overall I might say today was a bad day, there was something good in it. So, just trying to find that little piece of good. Number 8 is celebrating milestones. I feel like it's important, you have this end goal, this long-term goal, but it's also important to recognize what you've already done, and pat yourself on the back for it. So for me, that was like 100-mile markers. I always tried to take my picture at each 100-mile marker and at every state line sign. That's just something I look forward to every time I approached it. And it's just a little chunk gone, but even though it wasn't the final piece, it wasn't Canada, it was nice to celebrate an accomplishment rather than dwell on the daunting task at hand. It was nice to look at it and go, hey, I've already done 300 miles instead of, I still have 1,800 or more to go. Number 9 is keep learning. So I discovered about myself that while I'm on a thru hike, at some point my noisy mind gets a little quieter and I start thinking, I'd really like to learn about this, or I'd really like to know more about that. And so I would get audiobooks or podcasts to help me, challenge my brain and learn something new and, kind of multitask. So while I was walking, I was keeping myself entertained, but I was also using that time wisely to learn something that I might not have taken the time to learn before. Number 10 is be grateful. Sometimes it's really hard to be grateful for an experience when you're having a terrible day. For me, when it's raining and cold, that's my kryptonite. I am just not a happy camper. I try to remind myself that it could be worse. I could not even be physically capable of being out there on the trail and experiencing what I am. There are people who cannot be out there doing what I'm doing or don't have the opportunity to. So I really need to be grateful that even on that bad day, I'm out there doing something that I want to do and living my dream. And so it really helped to just remind myself of that. Number 11 is let the naysayers be an inspiration. If you do a thru hike, chances are at some point you're going to run across somebody that's like, well, shucks, you're coming through here a little bit late, aren't you? All the other thru hikers usually come through before now. Or, but you're a girl. You're alone out here? Or, girl, you'll never make it to Canada in time. Or whatever. Whatever negative thing that they say. I used to, get upset about it and just ooh, it would infuriate me, and actually it still does sometimes, but I try to take that negative comment or whatever upset me and turn it into something positive. So whether I'm proving them wrong or proving myself right, I just try to let it motivate me to actually complete the goal and to not let somebody else's doubt make me doubt myself, because I've learned if I don't believe in myself, who's going to? And I'll add something to this. I've seen people in forums online tell others that they won't be successful if they don't use, good gear. And yes, gear is important as long as it's capable of keeping you safe. But I've heard, people say, oh, you'll never make it to Katahdin if you've got a tent that weighs more than 2 to 3 pounds, or oh, you've got a 100-liter pack. Oh my gosh, that's silly. Why would you do that? Sometimes that's just what is given to somebody or what's in their budget. And I just want to say that you don't have to have the most ultralight gear to have a successful thru hike. Sure, it might be more comfortable if it's more lightweight, but I've seen people make it to Katahdin with gear that people laughed at and doubted, and all I'm saying is it's more about what is inside of you and your drive to carry on than, your gear. So again, let all those negative things just fuel you to push on. Number 12 is see the silver lining. There are going to be days that just seem impossible, if not weeks on a long distance backpacking trip, that are just like, what is going on? Why is this cloud following me? For example, all of Oregon for me on the PCT was like this. It was just smoke filled, there were so many closures. It was strategically just a nightmare to get through Oregon. And I was just really frustrated after all of the struggle of the Sierra Nevada. But because of all of the hassle of the smoke and trying to get around and this and that, I met some incredible trail angels that I might not have met otherwise. I didn't see much of Crater Lake because it was all smoked out, but someday when I go there with my hypothetical children, I can tell them about how their mom hiked through there and you could barely see Wizard Island, and so I was seeing something that likely folks won't see, hopefully, for a long time again, And on the Appalachian Trail, when it rained, these little red F's would come out, and that's the only time I really remember seeing them. And also the forest would just get so green and vibrant, So it's just like taking this negative situation and what is the little positive sliver of it. Number 13 is bad days make good stories. While on the PCT, Perk and I talked about the Appalachian Trail and our experiences out there a lot. And I found myself reflecting and laughing a lot at bad stories or bad days that turned into good stories. So I try to remember that when I'm having a bad day on trail, that, chances are a week or two, or maybe it'll even take a year later, eventually I'm going to laugh at this. Eventually I'm going to look back at this fondly, even though it might not have been a great experience at the time. But the point is, I'm making memories and I'm gonna have some good stories to come out of the bad days. Not only did the bad days make for good stories, but I realized that I grew more during bad days. I realized that I was stronger, I was tougher, I had more confidence in myself after a bad day than a good day. And also, if you find yourself in the middle of a bad day, just know that those tough times are gonna make the end a little bit sweeter. Number 14 is visualize the end. Whether it's the short-term goal or the long-term goal of the thru hike, it actually helps me to see myself reaching that point. So if it's the short-term goal of like reaching the next town, especially if it's been a bad weather stretch, if I can see the bed, that I'm gonna be able to rest in and smell the steak that I'm gonna eat or whatever, just seeing that really helps. But towards the end of a thru hike, I catch myself almost fantasizing about reaching the end. So visualizing myself, summiting Katahdin and standing up on the sign, or seeing myself cross into Canada, and how it will feel and look. And I just noticed that, hey, I just hiked 2 miles picturing this in my mind and, don't even realize that I did that. So it does help me motivate myself and, to get excited for what I'm there to do. Number 15 is motivate others. I think that this is really the most important one, and the one that I saw that had the most effect during my thru hike. So I really, I can't say that I never complained or that I was never fussing or I never, was whining to Perk about being cold, because I certainly did. But I noticed that if I tried to encourage people around me that I knew were getting bummed out or were upset about something, or I could see, they were lacking motivation, if I just tried to encourage them and keep them excited about the day or something that was coming up or whatever, that it helped me get excited and stay motivated too. And again, you know, this one really relates to everyday life because I see so many people on social media, you know, just tearing each other down and just being so negative, and, you know, even people's statuses, oh, I, you know, have a cold and I've sneezed 27 times today and I stubbed my toe and woe is me. You know, that just really attracts negativity. So I think it's important to, you know, rather than tear each other down, we should really be encouraging each other and building others up. It can be something as simple as giving somebody a compliment, you know, or just rather than putting all the negative things that are happening in your day, you know, oh, I sneezed 27 times and I've got a stomach ache and a headache and whatever, you know, share something that you're excited about and something that is happening positively for you and something that you're thankful for. And I'm not trying to preach to y'all, but I'm just saying that I feel like if folks in normal life and on the trail focused on motivating one another, that, not to sound cliche, but this would be a much better world to live in. Well, that's my list of things that helped keep me motivated while I was on the AT and the PCT. I hope that maybe, you know, it'll help give y'all some ideas of how to stay motivated on a thru hike or in regular life. And if y'all have any ideas to share, please do so in the comments below. I'd love to hear ways that y'all have stayed motivated, you know, while completing any task or goal that was kind of long term. Thank y'all so much for watching, and we will see y'all next time.